Okay, I will call this meeting of the Business Services Standing Committee to order. And we'll start with the territorial acknowledgement, and then if you are able, please stand for O Canada.
We would like to acknowledge
We would like to acknowledge
We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather here today
was used by the Haudenosaunee,
Anishinaabe, and Neutral people.
We also acknowledge the enduring presence
and deep traditional knowledge
les lois et les philosophies traditionnelles
Of the Indigenous people
with whom we share this land today.
with whom we share this land today.
with whom we share this land today. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us, come and with glowing hearts we sing the rise of true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
So you have an agenda. Remember, there were two subsequent versions of the package that were emailed out. So you want to look at the one that was emailed today. The agenda is the same, but there are some changes to the content of the report. Could I have a committee member move and second approval of the agenda as presented, please? Trustee Watson, seconded by Trustee Bradlin. I'll look over this way next time. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so the agenda is approved. There are no announcements that which I'm aware of. Are we good? We're good. Okay. All right, so I have no announcements, and this is not the meeting at which we do celebrating board activities. So we'll move on to me asking if there's any declarations of pecuniary interest. I see none. Yes, Trustee Watson.
I just wanted to make sure the items aren't about negotiation within the in-camera. Okay.
Correct. Okay. All right, so there are no declarations, no delegations scheduled. And then next item is staff follow-up, but there is no staff follow-up scheduled. So we'll move on to the folio 1, 2024-2025 audited financial statements. Now, this does require a motion, but I think we'll receive the report first, take questions, and then I'll ask for the motion to approve. Superintendent Landry, did you want to lead off?
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure this evening to present to you, along with Controller Armelini, the 24-25 financial statements and associated reports. But before we get to that, I'd also like to take a minute to introduce a couple team members who are with us tonight and have been integral to the entire budget and financial statement process. With us tonight, we have Rob Connolly, who's our manager of budget, and Nicole Litt, manager of accounting. The presentation of the financial statements this evening is the culmination of a tremendous amount of work over the past few months. And I would like to take a minute to acknowledge the tireless efforts of the entire financial services team, who under the guidance and leadership of Controller Armelini I put in many late nights over the past couple months to get us to this point. So to Maruna, Bull, Rob, and the entire team, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Great, so this is just the agenda of our presentation. I don't need the mic, right? Okay. I will be reviewing the audited financial statement, and if there is a motion to approve them, then Superintendent Landry will go through the final financial report, trustee expenses, and the annual audit committee report and the strategic spending plan. Okay. So yes, as I just mentioned, I will be reviewing the financial statements and a couple of notes on our statements. Just as Superintendent Landry said, I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge and sincerely thank the staff in financial services for their outstanding hard work and dedication during this year end, especially Nicole and Rob for their leadership during this year's year-end process. This year-end was exceptionally smooth. Thanks to everyone's effort. The team did put in many late nights and weekends, but it was completed, balanced, and ready for the auditors before October 14th. So I was very happy to see that, and we actually even enjoyed Thanksgiving weekend, so it was quite nice. So anyways, on the financial statements start on folio 7. And it shows how the school board manages the public funds. They provide insights into the revenue sources, expenses, assets, and liabilities. Thorough and detailed examination of the board's financial statements and accounts is important for transparencies, and financial statements include several main sections, which I will review. As stated on folio 3, the board received an unqualified audit opinion. So this means our auditors found our financial records to be accurate and complete with no significant issues or errors. And in other words, our financial statements are in excellent shape and everything was good. So they gave us a clean opinion. Okay, the key highlights from the statement of financial position. The increase to cash is due to higher ministry payments in August 2025 compared to August 2024. Also, the timing of our final check run compared to last year's contributed to the increase in cash. The decrease in accounts receivable this year is due to amounts related to Bill 124, which explains a large decrease in a ministry receivable this year too. We also saw an increase in the capital receivable due to higher capital spending for two major school additions, Willow River and Southeast Cambridge. When we built a new school, we actually spend the money first, and then we set up an accounts receivable to the ministry for those funds. The decrease in accounts payable is the Government of Ontario as the reversals for Bill 124, the advance payments and labor increase payments that we received, that we had to reverse from last year. And the deferred revenue increased due to a land purchase, $14 million in EDC deferred revenue and $2 million increase in core education funding. And I will review that note in more detail later in the presentation. Inventories of supplies decreased at August 31st, 2025 compared to the prior year. In 23-24, we held a large quantity of Chromebooks and Dell laptops. This stock has since been reduced. IT is now deploying all the devices to schools in the summer months instead of the fall. That concludes the review of the statement of financial positions.
Trustees, do you have any questions for staff? Trustee Weston.
Thank you.
Too many W's.
Yeah. So my question is the inventory of supplies. So does that mean like going forward, it will be this lower amount because the Chromebooks will always be distributed to schools in the summer? Is that correct?
Correct, through the chair. That is our hope, so it depends also when the inventory is received at the board office, so we are hoping that we are able to receive all our Chromebooks earlier in June, July, and then we're able to deploy them before August 31st, so they are ready at the school in September, instead if we were receiving them closer to August 31st, then we would have to deploy them in early September, which then that's where shows our inventory.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. So it doesn't necessarily, this is just more timing and it doesn't reflect a decrease in the number of Chromebooks that we're
Correct.
using in the system.
Yes, correct.
Any other questions or comments? I will entertain a motion as listed on 2020, on. Okay, we're not ready for the motion yet. Okay. Please continue.
Okay, so the statement of operations, again, I'm just gonna go over increases and decreases compared to last year. So the core education funding and provincial grants, there was an increase in this category. Again, it was mainly due to Bill 124 and collective agreement settlements. In the prior year, the funding related to Bill 124 and collective agreement was shown under provincial other, as we received this as an REP instead of through the core education funding, how we will be receiving it going forward. The federal grants and fees, this decreased because of the CVRIS capital program, which ended in 23-24. This was the COVID-19 resilience infrastructure funding that we received during COVID, and there was just a little bit left over in the federal portion that we received in 24-25, and that funding is now, or in 23-24, and that funding is now on. Investment income decreased compared to last year. This is primarily due to lower interest rates and lower average cash balances in the bank. In 23-24, the board did hold a larger cash balance for part of the year due to Bill 124 payments that had not yet been made. Once those payouts occurred, the cash position normalized, and we are now resulting to a lower investment income in 24-25. For other revenue, overall other revenue decreased. The main components are land purchases. In 23-24, the board purchased land totaling $25 million compared to $11 million in 24-25. And for land, we recognize land revenue with the amount that we purchased. So that is why that is a decrease. And revenues did increase for extended day as our program participation. On the expense side, for instruction and administration, both instruction and administration expenses decreased compared to 23-24. This again was it included the Bill 124 and collective agreement payouts, which did not occur in 24-25, just in 23-24. Hopefully this is the last year we will be talking about Bill 124. So and pupil accommodation expenses increased this year. Pupil accommodation includes school operations, school renewal, the operating expense part, rental expenses for portables above and beyond the temporary accommodation funding we receive. The increase is due to the normal annual amortization of capital assets. There was a $500,000 increase in portable rentals for Elizabeth Ziegler, and that was above and beyond our temporary accommodation, so that's why it is in that area. And it was a $6.8 million increase in accretion expense related to the asset retirement obligation. This obligation is a PSAP adjustment. So the accretion expense is adjusted on our accumulated surplus, therefore it does not impact our bottom line. Any questions on statement of operations?
I'm not seeing any heads. So continue, and I will refrain from asking for a motion until you're actually done.
Okay, so the two notes that I'm gonna talk about is note 3, deferred revenue. So the deferred revenue in EDC increased due to ongoing EDC collections. And land purchases this year only totaled 11 million compared to 25 million last year, meaning less revenue was recognized and more remained in deferred revenue at year end. The special education grants increased by $1 million. The board deferred the unspent SIA special education amount, which is now embedded within the special education envelope. The restricted grants, these are the legislative grants from the ministry that must be used for specific purposes such as Indigenous education, French as a second language, and mental health workers. These remain envelope and make up approximately $10 million of the deferred revenue balance. The targeted student support and experiential learning, this envelope was removed by the ministry in 24-25. So as a result of this, all our prior year deferred revenue under this program was recognized as revenue in the current year. For accumulated surplus. Okay, so in our on note 13 on folio 30 shows our total accumulated surplus. So as Superintendent Landry will be talking about, our total accumulated surplus available for compliance for the year is $3.4 million. On this note, on the bottom, it does show that the annual surplus before any of the PSAP allocation is $2.5 million. That is our available for compliance. The total 6.2 surplus includes the revenues recognized for land, school generated, and ARO. So our total accumulated surplus for the year is 3.4.
Trustee Weston.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if you wanted to take questions as we were going along.
I didn't think you have a question about something that's just been said, please put up your hand. I'll keep my eyes open.
Okay, thank you. Through you, wondering on note 13, the line that says amounts restricted for future use by board motion. What's included in that? I see it's almost consistent with last year. I'm just help my memory, I guess.
It looks like it's probably last year's figure plus interest.
So that is so the so that is any internally so available for compliance internally appropriated. So anything that in the past there was a board motion to appropriate, for example, a couple of years ago there was internally appropriated capital for I think it was the Ed Center that we took it from the top line. So now we know that we have this amount appropriated for expenses, and it was as a board motion brought to the board a couple of years ago. There's some computer hardware replacement items that, again, that was a board motion in the past. Also from there, there are the school generated funds, the ARO revenues recognized for land. So all those amounts are included in there.
Any follow-up? No. And any other questions while we're paused? Okay, go ahead.
Now through the chair, we have option.
Okay, so now would be appropriate to move the motion. Did Trustee Ramsey, did you want to move the motion or did you have a question?
I have a question.
Okay, so go ahead with your question.
I'm not sure, this is, I just now or later, but staff could tell me, just, wondering with respect to the audit report itself, that it's respond to anything to do with, contingent liabilities like for the board. I just didn't find that anywhere in the report. I'm just wondering if it's something that perhaps should come in camera or anything like that.
So through the chair. On note 16. There is a note on contingent liabilities. That so basically it does say that we've set up the note for contingent liabilities. However, if there is no reasonable estimated amount, then we do not put an amount on our contingent liability in the financial statements. And
Any follow-up?
Okay, so then, and I appreciate the response. So in terms of, again, I know I raised it about with regard to whether or not considered in camera, but what would have been reported then to the audit committee in terms of any risks?
I will defer that one to Superintendent Landry.
Thank you. Through the chair. So on a quarterly basis, we do provide legal updates to the audit committee. In terms of the contingent liabilities, they are noted in our discussions with the audit committee. The reason we don't disclose anything is there's uncertainty regarding either the timing, amount, or likelihood of an outcome, so we can't quantify any sort of payment. In cases where we have certainty or a reasonable estimation of the timing, amount, or likelihood of an outcome, we set up a provision which does show in our financial statement. So the contingent liability statement or note basically recognizes that there are things going on in the legal realm that the board is subject to, but there's uncertainty right now, so we can't set up a provision because we don't have any way to estimate. Details regarding legal are provided, like I said, to the audit committee on a quarterly basis in camera.
So we have one final follow-up. Please, or
There's no other hand, so I'll let you go again.
thank you, and I appreciate the response from Mr. Landry. So going forward, if things change, then the board would be made aware then, I take it?
Through the chair, we would first update the audit committee, and then we would make set up a provision, and we could update the board or the business services standing committee in camera.
Okay. And I appreciate it. So I'm not very clear though, like whether or not it would just automatically come, or is that something that I would have to be requested from the staff?
Through the chair,
go ahead.
again, sorry, through the chair, it's something that we bring to the audit committee in camera without request. If the desire was to have it come to other areas, I would say that would have to be a request that.
So, and again, that's true then.
That's
Chair.
You've already asked.
Yeah, well, I do have a question for you then, as
Okay.
chair. So, would we require a motion to, whenever that information, if and when that information goes to audit, that it does come to business services committee? Do we need to put a motion for that?
So I would suggest that you communicate with the chair of the audit committee, which is Trustee Woodcock, that should the audit committee receive information that should be shared with the business services standing committee and the board, that you would like it to come forward. So I think that's probably the best line of communication.
Thank you, and I do have one other question separate from this.
Okay, but you've asked two questions on, is this a completely different item or?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, I'm just wondering if you could just elaborate a bit on some of the things that examples of things that would be included in prepaid expenses then. Just something that.
Yes, so any, through the chair, any invoices that we would receive in August or June, July, or any invoices that we receive in the prior year that pertain to the following year, and we have to pay it before September 1st, then that would be a prepaid expense. So for example, our Osby insurance, we would get an invoice for the full year from January 1st to December 31st. So our prepaid expense would be from September to December. That part would be in the prepaid expense because it pertains to the following school year.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion in folio 2 is that the Business Services Standing Committee recommend approval of the financial statements for the year ended August 31st, 2025. Is somebody prepared to move that? Trustee Weston, seconder, please. Trustee Radlin. All those in favor? Sorry?
Sorry. Can I just make a comment?
You may.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through you, I just wanted to congratulate the team on getting a clean opinion on this audit. That there are a lot of work and this is a big organization, so I know all the time and hours that went into it, and I'm glad you were able to enjoy your Thanksgiving weekend, that you got it done. And also just to the financial team for a balanced budget again. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would echo that. And any other comments before we move to a vote? Let's move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Abstentions? Trustee Ramsey has abstained. Okay. So the next agenda item belongs to Superintendent Landry. And that is the 2024-25 final financial report. Starting on folio 35 in your packet. There's no motion required on this, it's for information.
Okay. Good evening, trustees. So I'm here to present the final financial report. As the chair indicated, it starts on folio 35 and goes to folio 46. This report builds on previous updates provided throughout the year. So quarterly, we report to the board on our financial forecast. So this is kind of the continuation or maybe the conclusion of a story that we've been telling all year. The in-year surplus, as Controller Armelini mentioned, is $3.4 million, or 0.03% of the approved operating budget. Key revenue changes are highlighted on folio 36 and 37, and I'll just talk about a couple of them right now. Student enrollment, as everybody knows, is a key driver of our revenues. And total enrollment was 596 FTE, lower than the budget forecast, which represents 0.9% of total enrollment forecasted for the 24-25 school year. This is not new information. We have been communicating this throughout the year that we were going to miss our budget forecast on enrollment. In terms of extended day revenue, the in-year change for 24 or total revenue for extended day, excuse me, in 24-25 was $20.4 million, which is an increase of $4.5 million or 28.7% compared to the budget forecast. And there's really two reasons for that. In the prior year, as Controller Armelini mentioned, we had a lot of payouts related to Bill 124 and collective agreements. Because the extended day program operates outside of normal board revenues, it's considered non-operating. We don't actually receive money from the province to pay for Bill 124 enhancements and collective agreement enhancements related to the staff that work an extended day. So we paid those monies out last year out of board revenues. And then we actually worked with the Region of Waterloo to obtain some additional funding through the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Program. So through that work, we got $2.23 million from the Region of Waterloo in 24-25. And then our enrollment in the program overall was higher as well, which accounts for about $2.27 million of the increased revenue. So those two combined is how we got to $4.5 million. Other grant revenue was also down slightly, but primarily related to a provision that we had to set up related to the collective agreements, and that's outlined in the table on folio 44. Next slide. So key expense changes are highlighted on folio 37 to 39. Supply costs expenses were $1 million lower than the budget forecast. Put a pin in that for a minute. I am going to speak to it. I think there's some context that needs to be talked about when it comes to supply costs. School operations amounts were higher than the budget forecast. I'll speak to that as well as other non-operate. Let's just go to the next slide. So like I said, short-term supply costs were $1 million lower than budgeted, but we have to point out that from the prior year, we increased the budget for supply costs by $8.05 million because we were seeing these massive overspends on our supply cost budget. So we increased the budget by $8.05 million, and then we came in slightly under that. So it's still quite a significant increase. If you look at table 1 on folio 38, it kind of highlights that. And I also want to point out that, the funding shortfall as it relates to supply costs, and maybe we'll just go to the next slide because I think the tables actually speak to it better than I ever could. So the top table is just our budget and expense. So you can see on the budget line from 23-24 to 24-25, we increased our budget for supply costs from 23.2 million to 31.2. And we ended up spending 30.2. So we're $1 million below budget. But on the second table there, it shows you the money that we actually received from the province for short-term supply costs for teachers and designated early childhood educators. It's about $12 million. And we spent 27.8 million on those two staff groups alone for a shortfall of 15.79 million. So just on those two staff groups, teachers and DCEs, the board is self-funding about $16 million for supply costs. I think that's an important part of the story, and it's one that we've been talking about for a few years. So I don't think it's a surprise to folks. Next slide. So just to summarize, as I said, we've concluded the 24-25 school year with an in-year operating surplus. Ongoing monitoring and attention of our fiscal position is critical so that we can continue to respond to challenges and pressures that may arise. We've done a lot of work over the past couple of years, but it's not the type of thing where we balance the budget and then don't have to pay as close attention to it. If anything, we have to pay closer attention so that we maintain the flexibility that we need and desire. And then the good news is confirmation of our year-end position means that we are compliant with Ontario Regulation 280/19, and we can now consider in-year strategic spending from reserves for 2 consecutive years starting in 25-26. Happy to take any questions. Oh, sorry, I have one concluding statement that I missed. So, Trustee Random.
No,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
All right. I was going to say that, the confirmation of our year position is only possible because of the support from trustees, senior leadership, and the system as a whole. Over the past 3 years, significant cuts have had to be made. We always had support, so wasn't possible without that support. So thank you. Okay. Now, Trustee Random.
Through the chair, I certainly want to express appreciation for the fiscal vigilance and responsibility shown by our financial services team. There is a lot of news that we read, and I certainly as a trustee have always been confident that we I don't want to use the word safe, but that we are meeting all requirements and that we are on track because of the excellence in reporting and fiscal juggling or whatever it is you do to balance projects. So thank you very much.
Further questions or comments? Trustee Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate the work that Stanford's doing. And I guess I have one question. has to do with actually having that surplus. Does that open us up to criticism that we're not spending the budget?
Great question. Through the chair, I think given the substantial funding that flowed to many boards as a result of Bill 124 and collective agreements, there's a few things related to WSIB that I know helped us a bit. Some of our WSIB costs were lower. And I have talked to my colleagues across the province. We are not the only board to find ourselves in a surplus position this year. It's our ability to maintain that position and maintain that flexibility. I think that's important moving forward. It has the thought crossed my mind, is it only us criticism we're not spending? We had forecast and planned to spend to the dollar. The fact that we missed by 0.03% sounds like a lot of money, but it's like going to the grocery store with $100 and coming back with 30 cents. So pretty close. Yeah.
Thank you for that perspective. I see no other questions, and as noted, this was a report for the information of trustees, so we can receive it as such and move on to the next report, which is trustee expenses, folio 47. Go ahead, Superintendent Landry.
Okay, so this report is for information and essentially summarizes trustee expenses for the previous year. The expenses have been audited by our external auditors for compliance with all board policies and procedures, and they have agreed the schedule of the trustee expenses to our GL accounts. This is an annual report that we bring forward. Happy to try and answer any questions folks may have.
I have a question, but I would invite other trustees to go first if they have one. I did have a thought, and that is that, I never find anything amiss with my own expenses when I see these reports, but I think it's possible that a trustee might be feel that there's an inaccuracy or something. Is there something that we could build in where the auditor or someone else could say, this is what we have your expenses for the last school year, and is there any reason that we should correct anything, or do you feel that this is inaccurate in any way? In the same way that an auditor would write to a financial institution and say, what is the balance in your bank account?
Through the chair, if that's something we want to add to the process, happy to do that. It doesn't really represent a significant amount of work for us to share this information with trustees ahead of time. So we're happy to do that.
Have you, through myself to you, have you ever had a trustee say, I don't think this is accurate?
Through the chair, we have not.
Okay, well, that's probably a good sign. I think in the current environment, trustee expenses are becoming much more a matter of public debate, and I think making sure that there's no inaccuracies might be a good idea. Apologies, my screensaver just came on, so. Apparently I was too enthralled. And now my password is not working. There we go. All right, so nothing else on trustee expenses. The on folio 49, the annual audit committee report, which does require a motion. This is on folio 53. But I will let you present and then ask for questions and then for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. As required by ministry regulation on an annual basis, we provide a report to the board summarizing the activities of the audit committee during the previous school year. This includes engagements with both the external auditors, which is Doane Grant Thornton, and the regional internal audit team. The report is provided for you on folios 49 through 52.
Are there any questions on the, on this, report? Okay, so the motion is that the Business Services Standing Committee, I'm sorry, trustee Watson, I didn't see your hand, I was
It's okay.
getting ready to read the motion. Go ahead.
So this is folio 53, right?
Apologies, it's actually folio 49.
Okay.
4950.
We got 50.
Yeah, 50, I read in, when I was, getting my screen back. So, you can save your question for the next, report. Could somebody move the motion that the Business Services Standing Committee recommend approval of the annual audit committee report for the year ended August 31st, 2025? Trustee Cody, seconded by trustee Rodman. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Now we'll move on to folio 53 and you'll be able to ask your question after the report.
Stuff I don't know if you know about.
Yeah, just getting it out there.
All right. Okay, so strategic spending. So on June 12th, 2025, the Board of Trustees approved the balanced 25-26 operating budget. The budget report itself highlighted plans to undertake strategic spending funded from reserves if the WRDSB finished the 24-25 fiscal year with a balanced budget. As just noted, the WRDSB concluded the 24-25 school year with a near operating surplus of $3.45 million. Under Regulation 280-19, when a board balances its budget in any given year, it gains access to its reserves up to 1% for 2 consecutive years. Confirmation of a balanced budget in 24-25 permits the WRDSB to access its reserves in 25-26 and 26-27 without violating the Ministry of Education compliance rules. As noted on folio 53, there are some considerations that we must make when looking at strategic spending. Maybe next slide. So access to our reserves is restricted to the lesser of 1% of our operating revenues for the current year. So that's about $8.5 million. Or the board's available accumulated surplus, which is about $64 million, whichever is less. So in our case, 8.5 is less than what we have in the bank, so to speak. And this includes any in-year operating deficit the board may incur as a result of unforeseen expenditures or reductions in revenue, i.e., if our enrollment goes down, we have less revenue, and we have to be able to account for that within our deficit spending. To maintain flexibility to deal with in-year challenges, this strategic spending plan being brought forward amounts to about $6.5 million, leaving approximately $2 million available as an in-year contingency. Next slide. So in support of this strategic plan, the Board Improvement and Equity Plan, and the Student Achievement Plan and Math Achievement Action Plan, Leadership Council has identified the following priorities to be supported through strategic spending in 25-26 and 26-27. It is also important to point out that a key consideration for Leadership Council when considering the strategic spending options was the anticipation that the investment would provide a lasting return on investment so that students and staff can benefit from the initial spending once access to reserves is restricted. And I think that's a very important point to note, is that this spending, the access to these reserves is time restricted. So whatever we do needs to have a lasting impact beyond the sunset date of 26-27. I think it's also important to point out that all positions identified will be posted as temporary until August 2027, unless otherwise noted. This will ensure that we have the flexibility we need to return to balance in 27-28 in accordance with ministry regulations. So literacy and numeracy. On folio 54, we identify the positions being added to support literacy and numeracy there. I think one of the other things I wanted to highlight and really emphasize is the indicators of success for these investments, which are outlined in folios 54 and 55 for literacy and numeracy. When we're making strategic investments or investments of any kind, we have to have a way of measuring whether or not those investments produce the outcomes that we want or desired. And if they didn't, we have to ask ourselves, why not? And reconsider those types of investments the next time that opportunity arises. So for our literacy and numeracy investments, some of the indicators of success that we've identified increase the percentage of students achieving provincial standard in reading, writing, and math, increase the percentage of students finishing grade 10 with 16 credits. We know that's a precursor to graduating on time, and increase the percentage of students graduating with an OSSD within 5 years of starting grade 9. You will notice that these are a lot of the same metrics, indicators that the Ministry of Education focuses on themselves. So we're not deviating from that. Next slide. In response to staff consultation regarding student behavior incidents and to enhance student support and classroom safety across our system, Leadership Council is recommending that strategic investments be made to enhance the number of behavior support teams that can be deployed across our system. These support teams, which include board-certified behavior analysts, child and youth workers, educational assistants, and specialized staff who are trained in behavior management systems, build staff capacity to deal with ongoing behavior issues and help foster a safe and welcoming environment for all students. These investments will help build capacity across our system in dealing with challenging behaviors and provide on-the-ground support where it's needed so that our investments in literacy and numeracy have a chance to take root within safe and caring learning environments. Staff have very clearly heard and recognized classroom safety, student support and classroom safety as an issue province-wide, not just at the WRDSB. So these investments are intended to support, enhance classroom safety and student supports so that the investments, like I said, in literacy and numeracy have a chance to take root, in a calm, safe, and caring. The positions are noted there. The 2 board-certified behavior analysts, BCBAs, those will be posted as permanent. The behavior support team staff are listed there, and we'll also be adding 15 educational assistants, which would be temporary in nature, consistent with some of the other investments that we're making. Next slide. The indicator of success for these investments is outlined on folio 56, and we're going to be looking at reduced student behavior incidents as reported to the Board of Trustees, specifically in kindergarten to grade 2. So we're already reporting to the board on incidents, and this is going to be one of the indicators that we use to measure the success or impact of these investments. Next slide. As noted previously in my presentation to the board during the 25-26 budget process, ministry investments in school operations and technology are insufficient to support the ongoing maintenance and enhancement of our underlying technology environment. We just simply don't receive enough money to do some of the things that we want to do with our IT infrastructure environment. Details regarding the spending in this area, because of the sensitive nature of our IT infrastructure and some of the investments that we're making, I can't share them publicly, but they have been shared with trustees in camera. So you have those details through an in-camera report. In addition to the technology infrastructure, we are going to be adding attendance support program software, attendance support specialists, and these are in response to PPM 171 around attendance support programs, which all boards in the province are required to set up and launch prior to June 2026. The indicators of success for these investments are outlined on folios 56 and 57. and successful deployment of identified technologies within the time frame and budget identified. I know it's vague, but there are other indicators of success that we can't really share here. Decrease the average number of short-term sick leave days utilized by all staff groups compared to 23-24 and 24-25. The target reduction is 10% over 2 years. So it is an aggressive target, but we need to be aggressive, particularly in this area of operations. And then other indicators have been outlined as part of the in-camera reports, like I said, that have been shared with trustees previously. Next slide. This is a breakdown of the strategic spending plan. So in 25-26 fiscal year, you will see our investments in literacy and numeracy, student supports and classroom safety, and then technology and operations for a subtotal of $6.4 million. You will see that we have a contingency there of roughly $2.1 million. That's the contingency fund that I talked about before to allow us to respond to any in-year pressures that we might have, for a total reserve spending cap estimated of $8.5 billion. That's based on our budgeted revenues for this year. You may ask, why are the literacy and numeracy supports amounts lower in 25-26 than they are in 26-27? That's because we are only able to hire the staff for literacy and numeracy supports and student support and classroom safety. Let's say January 2026. So we're only really getting a half year worth of the staff costs, whereas in 26-27, we'll have a full year of the staff costs for both of those areas. So you will see that their investments in literacy, numeracy, and student supports and classroom safety increase in 26-27, and then our corresponding decrease in technology and operations. So total investment over the 2-year period of $4 million for literacy and numeracy, $2.8 million for student supports and classroom safety, $6 million for technology and operations, for a total investment of roughly $12.985 million. And there is a motion on folio 53 that we would like Business Services Standing Committee to support our multi-year strategic spending plan as outlined in this report.
I'll
take any questions.
I'll take a mover and seconder for that, and then we'll questions of Trustee Weston. You wanted to move that, and Trustee Radlin is seconding. So just noting that trustees who are members of the committee will speak first. So I've noted that you wanted to ask the question, Trustee Watson, but we'll go to trustees who are members of the standing committee first. Trustee Weston, Trustee Radlin. Did I miss any hands? Go ahead.
Through you. So disappointing that the attendance support program that's mandated is not funded, and other technology infrastructures underfunded. So grateful that we have this surplus that we can use so that we're not redirecting funds from the student desk. That's a good thing. I appreciate the investments in students and staff and literacy, numeracy, graduation support, and of course classroom safety. The indicators of success that are listed here, when will trustees receive updates on those?
Through Chair, we haven't talked about the exact cadence of the updates. Some of the, because the EQAO results are only produced annually, it's difficult for us to report outside of that cadence. Some of the other ones, I think we could provide updates as they become available. I see a benefit to us providing frequent updates, but because some of these things take quite a while to get off the ground, and some of them will have to be in camera if they're related to our IT infrastructure. So long-winded way of saying we will provide updates. Ideally, I would like to provide them as part of our quarterly financial updates. I'm just kind of pointing out the fact that we probably won't have data for a good portion of the 25-26 school year. And it's probably going to be more about 26-27 reporting. We'll be able to comment on it.
Any follow-up? Trustee Radlin?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I have a number of questions. So, my first one is one of, I guess, clarification. So I think it's wonderful that we're gonna have school improvement coaches for principals, because we often forget that principals need support. I'm just wondering if I could have the third bullet clarified. The first bullet seems to me to address student achievement, the second well-being. And I'm wondering what the third bullet is saying.
Go ahead.
Associate Director then.
Thank you, through the chair, to respond to the trustee questions. That is very much, that third bullet is getting to many of the elements associated with graduation rates, but also some of our efforts as they speak to de-streaming. As we know, and has been shared with trustees previously, de-streaming, while often mentioned as being a secondary phenomenon, we are taking a K-12 approach. And so some of the adaptations to teaching practice and instructional leadership will require a K-12 approach as well. So that is really what that third bullet is trying to address.
So, yes, so that is addressing pedagogy, teachings.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you had a number of questions that you want me to come back to.
Yeah, if anybody.
Trustee Watson wants to ask a question, so go ahead. And I'll come back.
Thank you. Through you to staff. So first of all, when I read the report, I have a concern because we're going through a process, a strategic plan process, and we're gathering consultation. And yet the decisions, it appears like the decisions are being made right now. And so parents may feel like, why am I giving advice, or why am I sharing my information when the decisions are being voted on tonight? So that's the number one concern. But when I saw that with technology and operations, we're spending $3 million, $6 million over the next 2 years, when it would ideally, it would be nice to spend that on literacy and numeracy. And I understand why, but if you could explain how much money we hope to save through that initiative, because it does seem it's certainly not, it doesn't appear balanced. Where we really want to put the money, we're not.
Through the chair, I'll address the second part of your question first. The investments in technology and operations actually do support student learning at the student desk. Some of our IT infrastructure in our schools is quite outdated, and it doesn't provide the platform or the uptime or speed that some of our students and some of the programs they use require. So these investments are not central boards, board administration. They're actually, the majority of them are out in schools, improving the infrastructure out in our schools that directly supports our students. What I would also say is that the technology investments that we're making are probably a fraction of what is required to avoid some of the cyber risks that we have identified. As you know, it's a constant battle in terms of cybersecurity. So we do have to invest to be able to fight that battle.
Trustee Watson, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you, through you to staff. So with this strategic consultation happening right now, parents may feel that, what's the point of giving information if you're already gonna vote on this tonight? And I understand, like, the initiatives look great, especially with the literacy and numeracy. But it almost, again, and this has been a pattern in the past too, we make decisions and then we ask parents, so what do you think? So
through the chair, what I would say is that the strategic planning process that's ongoing right now, as you point out, is a multi-year strategic plan. Through that process, I think we're going to get some great feedback. I would, and I think you acknowledge this, I don't think anyone's gonna tell us not to focus on literacy, numeracy, classroom safety, and student support through that process. I think everyone is gonna say that these are the things that you need to focus on. We recognize it as a current issue and challenge with our existing strategic plan. And we're investing to support that. So I acknowledge the point, but I also would suggest that those things are going to be reflected in whatever feedback we get.
Trustee Radlin, I'll come back to you now.
Thank you, through you, Chair. This is going to the Landry. So Superintendent Landry, all positions are temporary, but the 2 board certified behavior analysts are permanent. So does that mean that we have funding past the 2 years for these positions?
Through the chair, it means we recognize the critical importance of these positions and we are going to find money.
Follow up?
Well, I'm very pleased that that decision has been made because it definitely is a priority. We have heard more than once about support needed for staff and for students. So thank you for that decision.
Okay. I'm going to ask a question myself. I do see Trustee Watson had another question. And this may be something that Superintendent Landry can answer. It might be Associate Director tonight, Acting Director Lemon can answer. The principal coach positions are temporary for 2 years, well, a year and a half. And it strikes me that anyone applying for those positions is probably a current principal. So when somebody applies for a temporary position, is their current position safe for them to come back to when the temporary position ends?
I'll defer to Associate Director Lemon.
Thank you. Through the chair to respond to the question. Trustees may recall when we present our in-camera updates regarding transfers and appointments, there will be from time to time acting positions that are presented as part of the transfers and appointments package. Those acting positions quite often are related to individuals where we have to hold positions for them through central roles, being assigned to central roles, or through a variety of leaves. So to respond to the question, the positions are held and the trustees will see those held positions as reflected in the acting positions that come through transfers.
Okay, and follow up. So a principal returning to a principal role, would they necessarily return to the same school or might they be assigned elsewhere?
Through the chair to respond to the chair's question, it's often a determination that's left up the student achievement and well-being team. Given the length of these postings, there may have been evolving needs and different priorities that may emerge at different sites. So we don't hold schools as placeholders. We hold positions as placeholders.
Okay, thank you. So I will recognize student trustee Carr, then trustee Radlin, and then trustee Watson.
Through the chair, I have a quick question about these positions. So are these the amount of hirings for the entire school board or per school?
Through the chair, excellent question. These positions that we've identified in this report would support the entire system. So they would be embedded within schools, but we wouldn't be hiring this many at each school.
Thank you.
Okay, trustee Radlin.
Thank you, through you, Chair. For the attendance support program, I am wondering if what the FTE is for the support specialist and what qualifications we've been looking for those positions.
Through the chair, noted on folio 57, it says attendance support specialist 2. That's the FTE. I'm sorry, it doesn't say FTE, but we'll be hiring 2 FTE in January 2026, and then increasing that to 3 FTE for the 26-27 school year. And I'll defer to Associate Director Lemon on the qualification.
Through the chair, to respond to the trustee question, the qualifications, we would be looking for individuals with human resource qualifications or on the pathway to acquiring those qualifications. Due to the nature of the work, that we would also be looking for individuals with data analysis and not necessarily a data scientist background, but definitely an affinity and a level of comfort with data analysis, and also some demonstrated experience in labor relations, because these will be conversations with bargaining units as we move things forward. We have positioned them, if memory serves, at around the middle of our mid-management bands. So they are they would be at the officer level, so part of the management group, but at the officer level, which is a little bit beyond an entry level, but still being supported by a manager.
Any follow-up, trustee Redden?
No, thank you.
Trustee Watson?
Thank you, through you to staff. So you had mentioned enrollment and how it could impact this. So could you give us the best case and worst case scenario based on enrollment? Because the last 2 years we've had declining enrollment.
Through the chair, we're still working through October 31st onsets for this year. But we did have a ministry call last week to talk about some provincial trends that they're seeing. And I think I shared some of that data previously. We are, provincially, they're seeing a decline in enrollment. And that's the result of a variety of factors, changes to immigration policy, students in JK and SK not entering the public education system when they historically have. They might be entering in grade 1, but they're not entering in JK, SK like they have previously. Best case scenario, I think, for our budget forecast for this year, our forecast would be that we hit our budget target, right? We expected, let's say 65,000 students, all 65,000 show up. Worst case scenario is that we come under that again, which I think there's some likelihood that we're not going to hit that target. But that, it's one thing to have low enrollment, but have we been able to adjust our staffing levels to reflect that? We have some good staffing processes in place to do that in September. Have we adjusted our expense forecasting for various areas because of the low enrollment? We have some flexibility to do that as well. That's actually a process we're working through right now for revised estimates, and we'll bring that information to the board, I think in January, as part of our Q1 update.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. So my follow-up, you get a call from the ministry. Do they plan on exploring this at all? Because certainly they would know why parents have chosen. Are they looking at where they're going, and are they maybe gonna ask parents why you're choosing not to come into the public system? Like, there seems to be some investigation, and it must happen at the provincial level.
Through the chair, I am getting an indication that I haven't gotten beforehand, that they are digging into this a little bit more than they have previously to try and understand the trends. Like I said, so, part of it is kids not coming JKSK. There might be some diversion to other options, but there's also just less students overall. There's less, the population is not growing as it has previously, so that's also a contributing factor, but they are looking into it. Got every indication that they're working with shared finance to try and understand the trends.
Seeing no other questions, I do have another one. I was pleased to see that there's some contingency allowed, and I think last week there was a new ministry directive that all boards set up student and family support offices, and it was noted in the memo to us that there was no money attached to that directive. Are we going to be able to implement that for September 2026 within the framework that we have, using that contingency or reallocating staff or funds.
Through the chair, details regarding that office have been light. Other than to say that we will have one, and where the money is coming from, is to be determined. I know that's a non-answer, but, so I apologize, but.
It's new information. So, I'll look forward to an answer when it's available. If there are no other questions, the motion and packages that the Business Services Standing Committee supports the multi-year strategic spending plan outlined in their support. Did I already get a mover and seconder on that? I did. Okay. Then I believe we can vote. All those in favor? And any opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
You may sit down, Superintendent. I'll invite.
Out of water, so it's probably a good time.
Superintendent Sager, you have the next item, which is the capital projects updates.
Good evening and through the chair of trustees. I will be presenting the major capital projects quarterly update report as listed on folio 59. This report is being presented to the board for information only. I'll first begin with our Willow River Public School, and as a reminder, it's located at 670 Thomas Lee Drive. Going to create 591 student spaces once completed, along with 49 licensed childcare spaces. As you're aware, we received partial occupancy in time for the start of the school year in September. However, since then, we've moved all the classrooms that were previously located in portables into the main school. The Child Care Center also received its license and opened this week. Our next milestone is to open the gyms, stage, and music room in December, with the second floor expected to be open and available to students early next year. I know everyone's looking forward to that one especially, so we're really trying to get that one finished for the students. Following that, I'll be updating the new Southeast Cambridge School joint use campus with the Waterloo Catholic District School Board. As a reminder, again, it's located at 655 Wesley Boulevard. This project will create 590 student spaces and 88 licensed childcare spaces for our board, along with 354 student spaces for our coterminous board. Some notable items currently with the progress on site includes the completion of load-bearing masonry walls and roof decking, with roofing scheduled to begin on November 24th. Windows are expected to be installed by the end of November, and we anticipate being able to pump heat into the building by the end of December, allowing for interior finishing to proceed throughout the winter. The exterior work, including playfield, sidewalks, and asphalt, will be installed in early spring. The project remains on track for turnover in summer of 2026. Next update is our Breslau Hopewell Crossing new school. As a reminder again, it's located at 95 Loxley Lane. This school will create 611 student spaces and 72 licensed childcare spaces. Some good news, a construction tender was issued earlier this week and is scheduled to close prior to the holiday break. Construction is expected to begin as soon as the general contractor can mobilize following contract award. And finally, Elizabeth Ziegler Public School. As a reminder, it's located 90 Moore Avenue South. Staff have been very busy with this project. They've issued the request for pre-qualification of general contractors to ensure that we select contractors skilled in the specialized restoration for this project to ensure that we maintain the heritage designation. Pre-qualified general contractors will be invited to the invitation to submit for bids when the tender is issued. which is anticipated in January. We've also provided Appendix A for your reference, which includes project information on folio 61. And with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Trustee Bradley.
Through you, Chair, my question is about Willow River. So, it's good news that you say the daycare is now open, the gym and so on. But I noticed that, the statement says that we expect, substantial completion by March. So what does substantial mean? And when do you anticipate final?
Through the chair to respond to the trustee's question. So substantial completion is when we reach approximately 95% of completion of the project. So they'll be addressing minor finishes, but we're hoping to have the actual second floor available earlier in the new year. So approximately around February. Substantial completion won't affect other spaces. It's just the contractor has to wrap up items that are outstanding. And this will be done after hours and not interrupting and disrupting the school. So you usually have substantial completion go on after the school year begins rather. So in another typical build, if school is open in September, substantial would usually occur in December. That's when they wrap up some of the minor issues with the project, addressing deficiencies. So that's an ongoing process that the contractor follows. It's a normal process, but we're really targeting to wrap up as soon as possible. So we've given the contractor until March to wrap up all the final issues so that we can turn over the school to the administrator, so they can have the school to themselves without the contractor being present.
Any follow-up?
So we are hoping that final completion will be before the end of the school year.
Yes.
Thank you.
No further questions. Again, Trustee Bradlin. You're enjoying not being in the chair, aren't you?
Chair, a question about Elizabeth Ziegler. I'm just wondering, for contractors, does it have to be somebody, because it's designated heritage? Does that determine who the contractor can be, if you know what I mean? Yeah. And does that make it harder to find one?
So through the chair to respond to the trustee's question. So in our pre-qualification, we are making sure that prospective contractors have experience working on heritage sites. They don't necessarily have a heritage contractor designation, but the requirements is that they have previous experience working on similar types of projects, because those contractors have to maintain the heritage designation. There's certain steps that they have to take to make sure that we follow the Heritage Society's requirements. So if there's an issue, if there's a piece of the building that's heritage designated, they have to carefully remove certain pieces, document, archive it, and then when they're ready to reinstate it, they have to put it back the way it was. So we are really pushing to have contractors with this type of experience, and we're opening it up to as many contractors as possible. A lot of the bigger firms may try and bid on this project because they've worked on projects in Toronto or in other areas with similar buildings. So that's a key requirement for us, that they have that previous experience working on these types of buildings.
So you don't anticipate it slowing down acquiring a contractor?
To the trader, we don't believe so, because there's a lot of buildings around the area that are in similar condition or need work to be done on, so they would have had that experience. That's why we're being extra mindful and making sure that we're doing our due diligence, especially when we're grading the pre-qualification, making sure that they have these key requirements and making sure that they're eligible to work on this type of project, because we don't want to be working through the project and find out that they don't know what they're doing and then causes further delays. we're doing the upfront work now so we can get the proper contractor in place.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
Further questions? I don't see any further questions, but while we have you at the podium, congratulations to the facilities team on the Heritage Award from the City of Kitchener for our work on maintaining the heritage site at Sudbury Public School. So please pass that on to the team. So that concludes this report. There are no board reports on the agenda. There is time for questions from committee members. 5 minutes. Are there any questions? I am not seeing questions. Therefore, I will ask for a motion to rise and reconvene in camera. Trustee Weston, seconded by Trustee Ramsey. All those in favor? And we shall rise and reconvene. And let's take 5 minutes because some people have to leave.